Hello and welcome to this month's Wild World of Wounds. This month, Clinicaltrials.gov. Ooh, it sounds exciting. Well, it is exciting. Let's go through this. So, when you go to study something, you are supposed to register now on one of these websites. And the common one that people hear about is Clinicaltrials.gov. And the reason that some journals aren't going to publish your paper if you don't pre-register is without pre-registering, nobody knows what you set out to study in the first place. And if I can change what I planned on studying partway through my study, I can make it say anything I want it to. If my drug causes everyone who takes it to die at 5 weeks, but at 4 weeks there seems to be a benefit, well, I just say I was studying it to 4 weeks. So the whole point of clinicaltrials.gov is that you have to say what it is you are going to study before you study it. And what are your primary outcomes? What are your secondary outcomes? And if you change those, that's important. And we want to be able to see that you change those. Now, just because you register on this website doesn't mean that people never change what it is they set out to study. For example, in this article, they talk about how in this analysis, 31% of primary outcomes were changed and 70% of secondary outcomes were changed. So you can imagine why, partway through your trial, you might say, you know what, this isn't turning out the way I meant it to. Let's change what it is we say we're going to be studying. Let's change some of those outcome data points. And now, instead of studying X, we're studying Y. And lo and behold, it makes my product look really good. So it's obviously really important to know what it is that they set out to study in the first place. And this came up because of this article, which was on non-contact ultrasound for venous leg ulcers. So in this article, they talked about, in the abstract, how at 4 weeks, the ultrasound plus standard care group seemed to have smaller wounds than the standard care group alone. But I thought, well, let's go look at clinicaltrials.gov and get an idea of what it was they set out to study. So here we are on clinicaltrials.gov. There's a little search bar. You plug in the name and you generally can find it. Now, the name might not be exactly the same. Sometimes they give you this number in the article that you can type in. But with a little searching, you generally can find it pretty easily. And here's their registration for this trial. And it tells me what they set out to study. It gives me current primary outcomes, original primary outcomes in case they're different, any change history I can click on, and current secondary outcomes. So here we see that under their primary outcomes, it was wound area reduction at 4 weeks. Secondary outcomes, time to heal at 12 weeks. So that's nice to know. How many actually healed? How long did it take? And then other things they decided to study, like how many recurrences did they have, pain level, quality of life, and wound reduction by age, wound reduction by wound size. So it gives me some of the things they were out to study as secondary outcomes. Now, armed with this information, I can go back to my study and I start looking at the results. So I go down here, reading. I finally get to the results section, which is down in here, and I can read through primary endpoints and then secondary endpoints. And as I'm reading through the secondary endpoints, I'm looking for that healing data at 12 weeks. I'm reading, and then I see the ultrasound plus standard care arm had nearly twice the number of ulcers that achieved complete closure by 7 weeks compared to those in the standard care arm alone. But I thought, well, 7 weeks? I don't see that over here. Where were they studying things to 7 weeks? And that made me think, well, why are they telling me that? Why aren't they showing me what was listed here? Where's that 12-week data? And then I see by the final study visit at 11 weeks, I'm not sure why it's 11 and not 12, but 11 weeks, maybe that's considered 12 weeks because they're maybe the 12th visit, I don't know. But 11 weeks post-randomization, 16 participants in the ultrasound plus standard care had healed their ulcers. completely versus 17 healed who were randomized to standard care. In other words, people who got standard care, more people healed than in the ultrasound plus standard care. Then they go on to tell me, however, 7 of these standard care patients received ultrasound later in a follow-up phase and healed within 7 weeks. And when I read that, I go back to this and say, well, where did we talk about doing a crossover component? Who were those patients compared to? How did we just, where did that come from? So looking at the registry data on Clinicaltrials.gov, and armed with that, I can do a much better analysis of the paper. And so I think we really need to utilize this really important tool. Clinicaltrials.gov. Use it. It'll help you analyze the literature that's out there in a much more organized fashion. All right, I hope you enjoyed this month's Wild World of Wounds. We'll see you next month. Bye for now.